Listen closely, because what I'm about to explain might change the way you look at Pi forever. While a lot of people around the world are sitting back wondering whether Pi is dead, fading, or never going to launch, something completely different is happening in certain parts of Asia. There's a whole underground economy forming right now, and people are actually exchanging real products using Pi at values most people wouldn't even believe. I'm talking groceries, electronics, school payments, and everyday items, all being traded at a value of $314,159 per Pi. Yes, that number isn't a typo, and yes, it sounds unbelievable. But these transactions are happening today in several countries where Pi users gather and run community-driven barter events. But here's the twist that confuses everyone. While these community trades value Pi at hundreds of thousands of dollars, unofficial exchanges, and I want to make this very clear, they are unofficial, show Pi IOUs floating around something like $60. And that leaves everyone wondering, which one is the real price? That's exactly what I'm going to break down so you actually understand what's happening instead of falling into hype or panic. Before I dive deeper, make sure you follow me on Telegram and Facebook because that's where I share daily updates that don't always make it into these videos. You won't want to miss the information I drop there. Now, let's talk about what people always misunderstand. There's this concept called GCV, Global Consensus Value. For some people, it sounds like a fantasy. But in multiple countries like India, Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and China, communities of pioneers are treating this GCV as a practical value. They run real-world barter events where the agreed-upon value of Pi is around $314,159 per coin. It comes straight from the mathematical number Pi, 3.14159, which is the symbolic inspiration behind the value. For the community, it's a statement. They refuse to treat Pi as a cheap or valueless token. These aren't just tiny meetups either. In regions like Assam and Delhi, you see hundreds of people attending local gatherings where you can walk in, scan a QR code, pay in Pi, and walk out with real goods. In Indonesia, some local schools, shops, and markets participate. In Central Java, people use Pi like a digital coupon system to buy household items. No traditional cash exchanged, just Pi inside a closed economy. And that raises the big question, if these events are real, does that mean Pi is truly worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? The answer is not that simple. These barter trades only work because the people involved agree together to use that value. It's like using a custom currency in a closed group. If enough people commit to the same value, it feels real, but only within that circle. Outside of that circle, nobody is paying that price. That's why critics say it's basically value created out of hope. And honestly, they're not entirely wrong. Now let's look at the other side, the IOU price you see on sketchy exchanges, where Pi trades around $60. First, you need to understand that these aren't real Pi coins. They're IOUs, just digital promises by platforms saying, when Pi becomes tradable, we'll give you the real coin later. But the problem is obvious, there's no guarantee they'll ever honor it, and the Pi core team has repeatedly warned people to stay away from these platforms entirely. These IOUs exist in tiny markets with barely any liquidity, and they move wildly based on rumors and hype. So those prices aren't real either. One number represents hope. The other represents gambling. And neither tells you Pi's true value because real price discovery will only happen once Pi enters the open market officially. So why hasn't that happened yet? The reason is the enclosed mainnet. The Pi network blockchain is live, but it's sealed off from external exchanges. You can use Pi inside the ecosystem, but you can't send it to Binance, Coinbase, or any other exchange. This gives time for KYC to finish, for apps to develop, and for the ecosystem to stabilize before millions of people start trading. Right now, no real Pi is being traded publicly, only IOUs. That's why any price you see online is speculation, nothing more. The event everyone is waiting for is open mainnet, because that's when Pi hits major exchanges and real market forces decide what the coin is worth. And with all this excitement, of course scammers show up. Earlier this year, an Indian YouTuber even lost monetization because he kept promoting unrealistic guaranteed Pi prices. YouTube cracks down hard on that. Scammers today are buying Pi cheaply from frustrated pioneers, stealing login details through fake apps, and sending phishing emails pretending to be official Pi messages. If anyone promises guaranteed profits, asks for your passphrase, or tries to buy your Pi before open mainnet, that's a huge red flag. Protect your information at all costs. So let's talk about what actually determines Pi's real price once open mainnet happens. Everything will come down to three main factors: supply, demand, and utility. Supply is a tricky one because billions of Pi have been mined, but only a portion will actually be in circulation. A lot of Pi is locked because users haven't completed KYC. Many old accounts are inactive. A big percentage belongs to people who mined for a few months and then disappeared. That means the circulating supply may be much smaller than people expect. And a smaller circulating supply always means a higher potential price. Demand depends on how many of Pi's 47 million registered users still care enough to be active. If apps, businesses, and services start accepting Pi in meaningful ways, that demand rises. If there's nothing to use Pi for, demand drops. Then you have utility, the most important factor. If Pi ends up being useful for buying goods, paying for services, or integrating with real businesses, people will want it. If it becomes another random token with no purpose, nobody will care. Exchange listings matter too. A listing on Binance, Coinbase, or Kraken would bring massive attention, but big exchanges don't list coins unless they see strong technology, security, and use cases. Now I'm going to be honest with you because you deserve truth more than hype. I've followed Pi for a long time. The tech works. The idea is unique. And the community is massive. Those things give Pi a real shot. But does that mean Pi is guaranteed to explode in value? No. And nobody should pretend otherwise. Do I think Pi could someday be worth $1? $5? Maybe 50 if everything goes perfectly? Yes, that's possible. Not guaranteed, possible. The healthiest strategy right now is simple: keep the Pi you've mined. Don't sell it to scammers for pennies. Don't delete your app out of frustration. Don't pour your savings into shady Pi purchases. Just hold what you already earned for free and wait for open mainnet. Whatever happens after that will be the real, honest value. Pi could succeed. It could also fade. That's reality in crypto. But stressing about it every day won't change anything. The smart move is patience. At the end of the day, everything comes down to this: the Pi community is powerful, but the real worldwide value of Pi will only be known when it hits the open market. Until then, stay cautious, stay informed, and stay grounded. The journey isn't over, we're just in the confusing middle chapter before everything becomes clear. If you got value from this video, hit that like button. And tell me in the comments, are you still holding your Pi, or have you already given up on it? I genuinely want to know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the honest updates coming your way. And check the links in the description for my Telegram and Facebook pages. That's where I share the stuff you really need to know every day. Thanks for watching. Stay smart, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.